Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is June 8th, and today we're going to take a look about the much discussed atmospheric river that is now about to encroach our shorelines here in the Pacific Northwest. You can see the Gulf of Alaska troughing here, steering this atmospheric river that does extend all the way across the Pacific. It's got that subtropical tap all the way to the western Pacific Ocean here, and this will officially start just about after midnight tonight as it starts to move onshore. Some nice high clouds today, but a pretty good day around the region. SeaTac has just got to 69 here in the last few minutes, so pretty nice day before the atmospheric river brings us some clouds and some precipitation, especially heavy in the higher terrain on through the day tomorrow. We'll take a look at that and we'll see just what areas are going to be rain shadowed through this atmospheric river event coming up here in a moment too. And checking out the recent METAR here, this shows that we got 21.1 Celsius, which is 69 degrees Fahrenheit, and that occurred at 4:53 p.m. So taking a look at yesterday, we did get to 72 as well, and so we might get 70 today, an outside chance of it. That would bring us to average. You can see the average temperature for SeaTac this time of year is 70 degrees. By the end of June, it is 74 as we move on into July. We should be a little bit below average as we move through next week. There is some model disagreement between the GFS and the European on just how warm we'll get. The European showing some cooler below average temperatures, the GFS more near average or even a day or two just above average. So we'll check out some of that information here coming up. This is looking at the European here. You can see that slug of moisture encroaching the shoreline just after midnight into Thursday morning. And this lasts just under 48 hours for about the Washington coastline, where much of the precipitation is occurring during a lot of this initial part of the event. There's going to be a couple waves of rainfall that move through here. But I think maybe a Category 3 atmospheric river is a more accurate indicator of what we're going to get with this atmospheric river. I think it just kind of lines up better with we're not going to be looking at widespread flooding, some decent rainfalls for the higher terrain, some isolated landslides are possible, some pretty good precipitation amounts in the lower valleys. But again, it's not a major flood maker at this period of the year, so maybe Category 3 is a better descriptor for it at that. But that is just kind of arguing semantics at this time. And here again is one more last look at that chart here. We're probably going to be just under 48 hours with some values above 750 on the water vapor transport. And so I'd probably call it a Cat 3. Now taking a look here at the HRRR 3KM, this is the 18Z run. I'm putting this one into motion because it goes out 48 hours. But you can see that precipitation start in Thursday morning along the coastline here, Vancouver Island, BC. Kind of overtakes the region pretty well there. And by Thursday evening, you can see Seattle up near an inch of rain. Much higher totals for the Cascades, the Olympic Mountains, Vancouver Island. The Oregon coastal range starts getting into the action as the atmospheric river kind of sags south during the day Friday a bit. But you can see a pretty good rain shadow going on here, and some portions just northwest of Portland as well get it on that rain shadow action there. So a lot of this rainfall is going to be falling on the southwest slopes of the Olympic Mountains here, and you can kind of see that near Port Orchard. I think it's Discovery Bay up there. It's going to be really the highlight of the rain shadow. I'll show you here as we look a little bit closer here. Here again is the HRRR 3KM. And as we go into this, check this out. Look at this little blob here near Discovery Bay where it just does not even rain. Not even one drop the HRRR is calling for here. Not even trace amounts. But you can see the big totals for the Cascades coming. You can see Mount Rainier highlighted there. The Olympic Mountains, Seattle getting over an inch for southern Seattle. Less as you move north through Seattle up towards Mukilteo area here, Everett getting some decent rains too. But you can see how when you get away from the rain shadow a bit, Vancouver, BC, looks like it's going to get some pretty good precipitation totals here. As you can see, the Georgia Strait here getting rain shadowed pretty well by the Vancouver Island terrain as well. Now, if we look at the NAM3KM, let's see if that agrees with the HRRR as far as the rain shadow activity. And it does. It really highlights a very similar area through here, just kind of south of Port Townsend. And you can see pretty good amounts through Friday afternoon. It's calling for almost an inch and 3/4 there for SeaTac. Really good amounts in the Cascades. Look at Mount Rainier. And this does go out farther, to be fair. This is 60 hours versus 48 hours on that HRRR that I was showing you there. But you can see that rain shadow effect. The Strait of Georgia out here at the Strait of Juan de Fuca, Squim area, Port Townsend area going to get rain shadowed, and it kind of extends into portions of Seattle too. So that's kind of the nature of these atmospheric rivers. Are low lying. They really get wrung out as they run into this higher terrain on the Olympic Mountains, Vancouver Island. And you can see this goes on for eastern Washington too, as this runs into the Cascades, and it just cannot make it over there. And that air that it moves over the Cascades kind of sinks and warms and just kind of enhances that rain shadow. Now, here's looking at some timing of this system as it comes in here. Again, it starts about Thursday morning. You can see it swing that first wave of precipitation. Then another one follows that as we go through Friday afternoon, adding to the rainfall totals for western Washington here as we go through the day and on in through Saturday. You can see some residual showers. This atmospheric river sags through Oregon during the Saturday evening and on in through Sunday, bringing some pretty good precipitation totals for northeast Oregon, Idaho, western Montana, as well as the residual troughing kind of hangs over the region too. We're going to have that convergence zone activity probably across the Puget Sound as well as we move into later this week and early next week. We'll take a look at that as that gets a little bit closer. We're not going to highlight that today because we're concentrating on the atmospheric river right now, but we are going to be dealing with the convergence zone activity probably early next week. Now here's the European. Let's see if it agrees on precipitation total amounts. You see the atmospheric river bearing down. It first impacts Vancouver Island and the Washington coast here, then the Oregon coast, and it kind of slides south during the morning Friday. And you can see these precip totals really building up on the southwest slopes of the Olympic Mountains here as we go through Friday night into Saturday morning. And you can see some of this precip tries to get to Northern California, but not much makes it down there. Kind of into the northern Sierra Nevada here. Does bring some precipitation into the region, but look at some pretty good values here through northern Idaho and through northeast Oregon, and maybe even some for the east slopes of the Oregon Cascades here. That would be much needed precipitation here. And as we go through next week, we're going to still be dealing with some troughing as we'll look at here on the extended in a bit. And I believe, what is that for the 10-day period? It looks like just over 2 inches by the time, as we go towards maybe Wednesday, Thursday, at another 2 inches for SeaTac total, which in June, we only average about 1.45 inches of rain for SeaTac the entire month. We're already over an inch so far. So taking a look here at the European, this is the, let's back up, or let's bring up the 12Z run instead here so we can go out a little bit further. There's that atmospheric river impacting the region here, and then you can see the trough kind of settle over the area as we go later through the weekend and then move through. And this is when the convergence zone activity will be happening early next week. We'll look at that in more detail tomorrow. I'll do a briefing tomorrow morning as well, and let's probably start to talk about that a little bit. We can see a little bit of a transient ridge moves through here early next week, and there's some model disagreement on just how much of this ridging is going to hang on before this next trough reinforces itself across the Pacific Northwest here. It keeps our weather active as we go through mid-June towards June 18th here in the extended of the European. Let's check out the GFS and see why those temperatures disagree for early next week. Atmospheric river comes through, and then we get the trough swinging through the region finally through Monday of next week. And then, it's not showing much ridging either early next week before this next trough comes in. We will be in the warm sector here, so we might get a half of a nice day on Tuesday. It depends on how this develops, so we'll continue to watch that. We're getting a little ahead of ourselves here, but a nice big trough carved out here on the GFS for next week as we go on into Thursday, Friday. So we'll watch that develop as well. It looks like the active weather is going to continue, and this troughing just does not give us a rest here. And now we're getting into fantasy land for the GFS. So taking a look at the European ensemble members here, you can see the mean is in green. That's an average of all the ensemble members. There's 50 of them, and you can see here these are the variations in those ensemble member runs. And this blue bar marks the 10% and the 90 percentile area of those ensemble runs. And the blue is the control, and you can see the control is actually on the high side of the precipitation, bringing over 1.5 inches as we get into what is this Friday evening, really. So Saturday morning, 1.5 inches, more than 1.5 inches forecast for Seattle if you go by the European control run. And the control run is initial conditions as we know them best, and we just let that model run out by themselves. Ensemble members, again, we take those initial conditions and we tweak them a little bit to kind of give us some idea of if our readings are off by a little bit, what might those values be like for precipitation, for wind, for temperature. It all rolls into these ensemble members. And taking a look here, you can see GFS, total precipitation, This is the ensemble runs here. You can see that GFS has 30 of them. The control here is in blue, and the mean of all those ensemble members is in pretty good agreement, really, with the control run here on the GFS, bringing 1.5 inches to SeaTac by about Saturday morning and 2 inches by about Monday evening. So pretty wet period coming up here, folks, this weekend on into early next week. But then if you take a look here, we don't add much precipitation as we go on through later next week. We really don't bring much precipitation at all till almost the end of June there. So this is GFS for Quileute. You can see they get about 1 inch by Saturday morning, maybe a little bit more, and then kind of a gradual increase in precipitation values. But they're not, Quileute's probably not going to get that second shot of precipitation as much as places Seattle and south through Portland will. So that's probably why the precipitation values are not going to be as high for Quileute as they will be for SeaTac on this for the weekend into early next week. Here's the European. This is the 12Z. This is daily forecast highs and lows here. You can see, again, we're averaging 70. So you can see the European painting for the next 10 days here. We're going to be below average here with that troughing in the area. So heads up for that. Not highlighting many nice days, but going by experience, I think that we probably would see a nice day or two somewhere in this area, especially into June. You tend to get a nice day between systems. And so we'll watch that day at a time as it comes. Here's the GFS kind of highlighting those temperatures more towards normal, even a little bit above normal for some of these days. And maybe this will be a little bit more accurate. If I had to bet, I would probably bet on the GFS's side. There'll probably be a couple nice days in through next week if I had to bet. So yeah, I will do another video tomorrow. I just wanted to get this one out tonight. That precipitation should start early tomorrow morning across the region. So most of the day tomorrow is going to be quite wet, and we should pile up almost 1 inch of rain here in Seattle. And of course, you guys know about those rain shadowed areas and about the higher terrain being targeted for higher precipitation values. So we will go ahead and look into it one more time tomorrow morning. Then I'll start looking at the convergence zone activity possible later on through this weekend and on into early next week as well. And we'll try to see if the GFS or the European is correct. The GFS is warmer and a little bit drier versus the European, which is a little bit cooler through next week. So we'll check those out too. So anyway, just wanted to say I had a good time in the live chat last night. Hopefully you guys, if you haven't, get a chance to do one of those coming up. If we get a good convergence zone activity, a convergence zone signature looking like it's going to happen one of these days, or if it's in progress, I might just do a live stream during that and we'll talk about the convergence zone. I do have a video in the making, an educational video about how the convergence zone develops and what kinds of impacts it does, and we'll go ahead and try to get that out here probably in the next month or two once things slow down. I planned on putting out a little bit more educational material, but we've been so active weather-wise that I've just been doing pretty much a briefing every day that I'm not storm chasing. So anyway, I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Click like and subscribe, and have a good day.